Hello. Today in our series on Africa's business leaders, we're in conversation with an extraordinary leader, Dr. Mamokgethi Phakeng. From her humble beginnings in Ga Pretoria, South Africa, to becoming an internationally celebrated academic and a powerful voice in leadership, her journey is as inspiring as it is impactful. Renowned for her transformative leadership as Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Town, she's broken barriers in academia, earning accolades for her contributions to mathematics education and inclusive leadership. Her accolades include multiple honorary doctorates and recognition as one of the most influential women in Africa. She's also now making strides in business as she continues to champion education, community development, and entrepreneurship on a global stage. Dr. Phakeng, it's a pleasure to have you on the BRICS Africa Channel. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for inviting me.
So now you've often talked about growing up in Ga Pretoria, and I just wonder how those early years growing up and the values perhaps that you gained in your family setup set you up for the leader that you've become today.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that the values that I got from that environment. I mean, first it was pursue excellence. Pursuing excellence was the thing at home. It didn't matter which subjects you were doing. My dad insisted that you have to be excellent at it. So I did mathematics, for example. My older brother didn't. Me and my younger sister and my younger brother, we did. And there was never a time we didn't even know. Whether you get mathematics at 100%, if you get history at 60 something percent, and the level is 80, you get punished because the issue was you become excellent. So there wasn't a thing about, oh, maths is this, so if you got this, then we can forgive you for that. So the pursuance of excellence, the valuing excellence in the way that I do came from there, and valuing hard work. We grew up with the mantra. My dad in Setswana, my dad would say, you must be a proud poor person. Don't accept crumbs simply because you're poor. Work for what you deserve and rather leave the crumbs alone. And so even though we were poor, we were told that you are important, you are capable, you are able, so you can work for whatever you want. You want to achieve. So the value of hard work was also inculcated in that environment. And then the value of Ubuntu. We grew up in a four-roomed house, but at any one time, there were always people living with us. Even if it meant that for that 3 months where this distant uncle of my dad or my mom or the family of that uncle are living with us, we sleep under the table in the dining room. That's what happened. And so we learned that you share with other people. You don't, it is not right to be full and okay when people around you are not okay. So as a result, all of us, me and my siblings, we've adopted children who are not family. We live with them, we take care of them, and that's the value. So I'll mention those three. I think those three are the ones that I got, were inculcated in Ga.
So from starting school under a tree to getting a PhD in mathematics education, and then right at the top of the academic teaching ladder, Vice-Chancellor of a major African university. I wonder what inspired you to study mathematics and education, and what kept you inspired along the way?
Yeah, I mean, what attracted me to mathematics is because mathematics was, I hesitate, but I want to say easier than any other subject for me. And I still maintain, and when I talk to young people, that actually it is easier if you think. It's one of those subjects where whatever you learn in grade 1 or grade 8 remains the same and important in grade 12, in first year maths, even in PhD maths. The theorem of Pythagoras doesn't change. And whatever you add on may emerge from that theorem. And so you don't have to memorize too many things. You have to catch the big idea. Whereas I found that with other subjects, even biology and history, I found that I had to memorize, I had to put too many things to memory. And I struggled with that because the muscles on my fingers were different from the muscles on my toes. And they had different names and they functioned differently. And I had to learn the bones everywhere on different parts. And not only of human beings, I had to learn the ones of animals too, and the different animals. And so there was a lot in biology that I had to commit to memory. Same as history, there was a lot. The church history is not the same as other histories around. Of course, you can look at how it influenced other histories, but it was just too difficult. So mathematics, I always say to young people, was a cop-out because it was easier. And I wish our young people can get that. What you need to get are the big ideas. The big idea remains the same throughout. And so I found it easy. And then I also liked the fact that I could come with my way of solving the problem, that the way of solving the problem was not the same. So that's what attracted me. And education came because, I mean, first of all, I studied my undergraduate university degree during the time of apartheid at a homeland university. And in retrospect, I keep thinking, Mr. Mangope was very smart because he thought about you start a university, you offer the programs that will give the skills that the homeland needs. And so there was no BSc plane or a BA plane or whatever. All the programs in the university were professional programs. You got out with the profession, either you're a social worker or a teacher or whatever. So if you did a BSc or a BA, it had to be education. So education was compulsory. And that's how I got into education. But then I realized that's what will get me actually to interact with the human beings that inspire me the most, young people. That's how you can impact on the lives of young people. And so how do you bring the two together? I discovered after my undergraduate, I had 1 year of working, teaching teachers at a college. And then I went to Wits University and that's where I met mathematics education. So it's like bringing the two things together. One that gives me access to the constituency or the community of people that I want to influence the most, young people, and one that actually feels like a place of comfort for me.
Along with Dr. Rampele, both of you as Black women really broke down some significant barriers ascending to UCT Vice-Chancellors. How did you navigate the challenges that came with such historic roles?
Wow. I mean, I took over the Vice-Chancellorship of the University of Cape Town when it was in the middle of the Fees Must Fall protests. In fact, the farewell function of my predecessor was shut down. It was the last shutdown before it never happened on campus. It was started and the students shut it down. And so I took office at a time of turmoil. And so I came in with the vision to do three things. First, it was to bring the university to stability. 3 years before I took office, by the way, the university we could not even write exams, second semester exams in November, October. We wrote them in January, February, because there was shutdown after shutdown. The year that I took office, the exams could not even be written in the exam halls. They had to be written on a rugby field in a tent with security everywhere. There was private security on campus who fought with students. So it was a difficult time. So I wanted to bring the university to stability. We must write at the same time. We must lose less. We must not lose academic days. And we must write exams when we are supposed to run. Secondly, because of this, since 2015, the university was falling off as the #1 university on the continent of several of the rankings. There are 5 major university rankings, and they were falling off, I think, 2 or 3 of them. We were no longer #1. The business school had fallen off the Financial Times rankings. They were nowhere, actually. We were, in fact, the business school did not even have leadership. The director had left. People were resigning en masse. So the second thing I wanted to do was to bring the university to its former glory. because I felt that's important for this continent. UCT doesn't belong only to South Africa. It's a name, it's a university that's important for the continent. And thirdly, it was the issue of recruiting funds. You know, we were losing donors because donors were saying, what is the point? They were blaming the university for not being decisive, for not doing this and that. And so donors were not giving money anymore. And when you don't have the funding that you require, not only can't you fund students, but you can also take on the projects that you need to take on in the university. And so I came in with that. And the challenges of leadership come in the midst of all of that. The report of the institutional transformation whatever forum that sort of looked like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It was the ITRC, the Institutional Truth and Reconciliation Commission, something like that, had made decisions about rustication of students who should be forgiven, whatever, and I was to implement that. And there was a lot of anger, particularly in staff. But there was nothing to do. We had to move on and forgive people and get on with the work. So I started with a lot of baggage in the university. Of course, fortunately, I only joined the university in 2017 as Deputy Vice-Chancellor and only started 2018 as Vice-Chancellor in July. So I didn't have the baggage of 2015 or so, but given the way I interact with students, I had baggage. So people place you, whether you are this or that. And I had to navigate that and talk to extremists on the left and talk to extremists on the right. You know, I couldn't exclude any of the extremists because otherwise I'm not able to solve the problems. And I engaged with all of them. So it was hard. It was hard, just that toughness that would have been there for anyone. But the other level of toughness is the fact that I'm a small Black woman who likes beautiful clothes, wears makeup every day, and big earrings a lot of times. And that's being colorful as I am. I mean, I like African prints. I always colorful. And that, I didn't know that it was going to be so foreign on the UCT council or on the UCT campus, just who I am. And not just who I am, but also my way of being, seeing, and doing. I'm a person on the ground. So there are things that I don't need any frills, I always say. You know, I get down and do the work. So I'm colorful, and then I'm also different in the way I navigate. I think that brought a challenge to me, as much as it helped in terms of bringing the university to stability, because students occupy the building, I would go to the building that they're occupying, unlike the previous leadership that will sit in the executive room and discuss. I would go there. And even when people say, oh, it's dangerous, whatever, I say, bring it on. I would like to see the students attack me or abduct me. And they never did. And of course, I knew they wouldn't. You know, going into residences, seeing the students, seeing what they eat, sitting with them or whatever, sort of surprise people. What is it that she's doing? So my way of being, seeing, and doing was a big challenge for me. So challenges of how I dress, that people say, oh, why is she wearing that dress? There's too much cleavage. There's too much, even though there's no reason to think there's cleavage because I'm not well endowed anyway. So, but I got critique. The scrutiny was just too overwhelming. And then, of course, I guess the big thing is that I made it clear to the staff and the students that in my tenure, it doesn't matter how much problems we have, I will not call the police or pay private security to come and bring order. And I said to them, I don't want us to do that, because when you do that, whatever is the contestation loses direction. Because then you start the contestation between the two, and students get arrested, and then the protest starts about the students who are arrested, and then it never ends. And so what that means, and I said, I'll hold people accountable. And I say to people often, you don't call the police, you don't call private security, then you are the police. So I was the police. And so I confronted students who are out of line. I confronted staff who were out of line. I needed things to get online. And so my style of leadership did not resonate with some people. And that's leading in the time of turmoil. But at the same time, you know, there's a professor who was extreme left who called me not long time ago, wrote to me actually, and said, Kgethi, you know, I read the email last year, towards the end of last year. He said, you know, we talked about you so much that there's so much fresh air since you came. This is a conservative professor who said there was so much fresh air. We could walk around on campus. We could, unlike the previous 3 years. So as much as it was tough, and some people found it tough because they couldn't get along, go on doing their things that are out of order, students and staff. It was fresh air for some people on the left and some people on the right. And that's why I say my leadership, the challenges of my leadership at UCT can be, as a metaphor, you can see them as walking the tightrope. Walking the tightrope between the boardroom and the picket line, if you like. Tough, but worth it.
Tough indeed. I mean, you did experience the highs and the lows. So if you took all of this experience now, and at different levels of management there, and you now had to stand before a school of leadership, what would you then say would be the lessons that you would share with them in terms of how to become successful leaders, given the experiences that you went through?
I would say the key thing is learn how to lead down and to lead up. You've got to be an expert on how, because leading the people who are below you and leading the people who are above you is not the same. And of course, I would explain who's above and who's below, because it's not always hierarchical power. Sometimes it's socio-economic power. Sometimes it's structural power. And in many ways, I mean, as successful as I was as Vice-Chancellor, I think I was very successful in leading down. In leading up, I resented the idea of respecting, what can I say, the power that comes with privilege, whether that's privilege of gender, race, or socioeconomic status. I resisted that. I focused more on being consistent. You treat people the same, whether they are low or above. And I would say, you want to be successful, especially in a contested space, learn to lead up and to lead down. That's the key to success.
So you then left UCT, but education's still something very important to you. I believe that your Adopter Learner Foundation's turning 21 this year, and also that your Mamokgethi Phakeng scholarship still remains at UCT. So one of the things you've also coined a phrase is let's make education fashionable. Does this mean that education is a golden key?
Education is definitely the golden key. Peter, if it were not for education, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I mean, just think about it. Education is an equalizer. Education has got no respect for your economic class. I mean, if you pursue it, like I did from under the tree, irrespective of any challenge, it will make you stand toe to toe with children of multi-billionaires anywhere in the world. Young people today see education as a key to a job. And I say, you know, that's not what education is about. Of course, you can get a job, but first of all, the big thing that education gives you, it endows you with confidence. It endows you with confidence. I mean, when you have some education, you've got confidence, you've got something to offer, okay? And of course, if you do it well, you also have skills. You can see, and then it also endows you with the ability to self-reflect. And in whatever context, you can say, what are my strengths? What can I do here? So if you don't have a job, you can actually create one. You can actually respond to a need in society. So I think education is an equalizer. And so as imperfect as it is, because education in our world today is done through schooling, which is hugely imperfect. Even with those imperfections, I would still say it is worth doing because it creates paths, it gives you confidence, it enables you to dream beyond your immediate context, which may be poverty. So I vote for education anytime, and we've got to make it fashionable.
So you've now also pivoted into business leadership. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
What inspired that jump into this world?
You know, I've spent, way more than 20 years in higher education, management, and of course, I've worked in the NGO world. I've explored so many things. I've taught at primary, at secondary, and at college. And I wanted a different environment, a new challenge. And business offered that. And of course, it is still within the things that I'm passionate about. It's meeting the needs of the poor. So what inspired that was I looked at my strengths and I thought, with my strengths, Peter, I can sell sand in the Sahara and they'll still buy it. And so if I get into business, I can do a lot in business, So that's what inspired it. I realized that, there are things that I don't have to work too much about. I can literally sell anything to anybody and they would buy it. So that's what I do. Sometimes I sell ideas. Sometimes I sell things that are handleable. And I went into areas that I believe are needed. I mean, I believe that food is something that you can't live without food. It doesn't matter how much medical aid you have. If you don't have food, there's no life. So you need food. And that's why I went into agriculture. And of course, I've always loved agriculture. So I'm in agriculture because of that and interest in food security. I'm doing business in education. I've got so much to offer to basic education and to higher education and to mentoring people who are working in that space, but also to mentoring people who are in management anywhere outside education. And so I have a mentoring platform where I do that as well. And I work with different universities, particularly on the continent, on management training of their deans or heads of departments. So I focus on it. And then I do entertainment. People have no idea about my personality, that I've got a sense of humor for days. I could have been an actor. I believe that if I had been an actor, I would have been part of the pops. I actually think I could. There's so many things that I can do. I have a sense of adventure that many people my age do not have. Even young people do not have. And so I've got a unique personality that can fit into entertainment, that I can drive a tractor and do work in the farm. I can still stand in a class and teach an honors class or an undergrad class. It will be full. And more students would come. So I'm drawing on the strengths that one have. And that's why I think that's what education does. Education helps you be able to reflect on your strengths and think about what is it. I didn't want to go into structured, institutionalized employment. I wanted to be creative, to be free, to explore my personality and to do more and serve the people who need the service that I can offer.
So how has the experience been? Was it difficult to transition from the structure of academia to this new space where a lot more creativity actually happens and it's different?
It's been very interesting, and you're right, Peter, it's very different. One of the big things that changed and the challenge was that, in academia, talking about money and making profits, it's somewhat a no-no. And now I'm in a space where my line is, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. So we can't keep it if it doesn't make money. And it took me a bit of time to be comfortable with that. We can't keep doing something and that's because it pinches your pocket. So you can't. If you come with an idea and you're going to do something, and 3 months later it's not taking off, we kill it. We don't keep going with it simply because it feels good or we have to go to this committee or that committee. No, we cut it. We don't care whether we have employed 2 people to take care of it. We cut it. We say to them, goodbye, this thing is not working, because otherwise it's wasting money. So I've had to learn to do that, and be comfortable with it, that this is not charity. And this is not just public service. This is business. And I say that to the people that I've hired as well. This is business. It's not charity or public service. It's business. If it doesn't make money, there's no point in continuing with it. And that, I think that was the major shift from academia to now.
So, in academia, you were able to see the impact that you were having with the work that you were doing. Business is slightly different, as you've described. Do you see and feel impact still there in this space now?
No, it's amazing. I still feel the impact is still there. I mean, first of all, remember that one of the things that I do is the mentoring platform. And even though I didn't say it's just women that I mentor, for some reason, only women showed up. And so and only people or some people that I'm mentoring are registered for postgraduate studies. Some are academics, some are managers or executives in academia. Of course, that's a business. I'm not doing that for free. I can see the impact with that work. But I can also see the impact in the people we hire in the entertainment and in the agriculture space. You know, first of all, the fact that you have a certificate is important, but it's not sufficient. Now that I'm in business, I say to you, we don't just hire people who have certificates. We hire people who have a skill. And sometimes I sit and I look and I'm like, wow, look at these young people that we've hired. Some of them are rehabilitated criminals who were in prison, they've served, and they're here. And they can be in the building with me. In my whole life of working at universities, I never went to the bathroom without locking my office, because if I did, my phone would be gone. Now I go to the bathroom, I leave my handbag, everything there, and there are rehabilitated prisoners in the building. My phone doesn't go away. Often you get someone who comes with the phone and say, hey, there's a phone, someone left it in the toilet or left it on the counter, wherever. And there's young people so I realized the impact of what we do. In fact, I see it way more, because with students at university, you saw at graduation and then they look for jobs. And here you see the change in their outlook in life. Now that they can earn an honest living, you see the change in their outlook in life, and how they then decide to uplift their families. You can see that it's almost immediate when you see it. When I say, how was your holiday? What is this? I had a meeting with some of them on Tuesday, and I said, what is the one thing that's amazing that you did during the holidays? And one of them said, I bought furniture. I bought furniture I mean, that's amazing. This is a young person who didn't even have a place to stay. And he is, during the December holidays, he says, I managed to buy furniture finally. And so I still get the excitement, the exhilaration of seeing lives changing with the young people that we employ, who may not have the degrees, the big degrees, but they have the skill, the enthusiasm, and the willingness to work hard, and they're making their dreams come true.
Your work now has taken you literally all over the world, across the continent. What's it been like now engaging with an international audience of leaders in different contexts? Has that changed your outlook on leadership, being exposed to different territories, different cultures, different types of leadership beyond our borders and what we're used to?
I mean, it's sort of emphasized some of the things that I've always known, that context in leadership matters. Context in terms of whether it's broadcasting or whatever, entertainment, but also context in terms of the social-political space, or geopolitical happenings. The context of your leadership matters. When I'm in Geneva and I'm with colleagues, and we're talking about, how will AI change what it means to be humans? That's a different space. We're talking about the future, things that don't exist now. Should we be supporting the move to stop research on AI, or should we say it should go on? Do we need global policies, a governance structure that governs how this happens, or should we just let it go and grow as it likes? It's a different kind of world from when I'm working with the women who are in business in agriculture in Zimbabwe, who, are talking biogas, or we're talking agro-processing, and, one leaves, just left their profession as a medical doctor and they go into this. The things that you're talking about, how do you grow your business? How do you move on? How do you, so I've learned to become much more agile depending on the context that I'm in, and understand. I mean, and also appreciate a lot of what we have in South Africa. I mean, I was in Zambia, and we booked in an Airbnb, and the Airbnb manager said, we get 3 hours of power, electricity, if we are lucky, per day. And then he said, so please forgive us if the water is not as hot as we'd like it to be. If we are lucky, it's 3 hours. And then he explains all other things. And then I was like, wow, this, and it wasn't like he was complaining. People are just, this is it, everywhere. And this is not in a rural, this is on a copper belt where people who come there for business meetings stay, right? And then I'm like, actually, this is Western Zimbabwe. When I'm in Zimbabwe, it's not just 3 hours. People think when I'm in Zimbabwe is the worst. It's not. Here I am in Zambia, and this is it. And in South Africa, lights go off for 3 hours. It's like the world is coming to an end. And am I saying people should just allow it? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, when you work in different contexts, you realize that there are problems that are the same. I was also in Switzerland for a meeting once, like soon after it was probably a year into the war in Ukraine and Russia, and there was load shedding at a hotel in Geneva, and they were like explaining, oh, they no longer, like, they get their power from Russia, from France, and France got from Russia, so there's been sanctions, blah 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 blah. But I mean, sometimes we function as if we are the only ones who are experiencing the challenges that we are experiencing. But when you work with leaders across the world, you get to get a broader understanding and sometimes an appreciation of what causes the problems that we have, how privileged we are compared to many other spaces, and how much more we can do despite what's going on. And perhaps there's even an opportunity for entrepreneurship or business there.
So you've been a vocal advocate for women in leadership and education, and I know that you have quite a clear view between women empowerment and women justice. Take
Oh,
us
yeah.
through that difference in definition for you.
Often we talk about women empowerment, like women have to be empowered. It's almost like women are born with a deficiency, so let's put something to empower them, as if they were not born with same abilities as men. But actually, we are born with the same abilities. We are gifted. We've got our strengths, and so it is not women empowerment that we need. We need justice, right? If you treated women justly, you wouldn't need to talk about empowerment. But then empowerment, what empowerment does, creates is this idea that you empower, but you will never stop because you are assuming that they come with a deficiency. So every year you'll have to empower. But if you become just, you treat women justly, you stop the extra scrutiny, the unnecessary extra scrutiny on women, the unnecessary extra expectation on women who are capable and just doubting them simply because of how they look, they dress, and so on. If we stop just the extra, suspicion that they can't be good at math simply because they're women, and just treat them justly, as you treat men, we might just be surprised. You don't need to do it over and over again. So definitely, we do not need empowerment. And the narrative of women empowerment is hugely problematic. We've got to talk about justice, treating women justly. Let's do that and see what happens.
This is the BRICS Africa Channel, so I have to ask you your thoughts about BRICS, the grouping, and what you think that the BRICS grouping can do to be more life-changing for ordinary people on the ground.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because, I mean, in my view, there's lots of strengths in BRICS. There's a lot of strengths and value that the BRICS group brings. But I think it can be even more powerful. I mean, if you think about BRICS, if I mean, of course, the trading and the dollar stuff, de-dollarization, those conversations are important. But I think what puzzles me is the fact that Africa, for example, has been asking to be part of the Security Council, a permanent member of the Security Council. And Russia and China are part of the Security Council. Africa is the most populated continent, but we don't have a seat, right? And even when they consider a possibility of having a seat, it's without veto power. None of the countries, including Russia and China, have supported that we can have a seat with veto power. And so for me, that's the weakness of the BRICS. Why is it that we are together in this group, that Russia and China is not actually supporting a request to be a permanent member with veto power? We are the largest continent. We are the youngest continent. It makes sense to have Africa being represented there and having veto power. That for me is it's a weakness as much as BRICS can come with other strengths. And it's almost like we are in this BRICS, but it's not an alliance of equals.
Yeah, fascinating insight. Thank you so much for that. Perhaps a final question. I mean, you've achieved so much already, and you still have a lot of energy and desire. What do you want to achieve in the decades still ahead of you?
Sure. At the moment, I'm pursuing peace. Peace. I've spent all my life chasing career, chasing achievement, chasing this, and I've nailed a lot of them, raising children and so on. And now I'm pursuing peace. I just want to be comfortable. And that's why structured, institutionalized employment is not appealing to me right now. That's why I'm happiest when I'm at the farm. So I hope at the end of my life, or as I go on with my life, young people look and say, wow, it is true. You don't have to be just one thing. You can achieve in many different things. From academia, from being a teacher, you can get into business and you can still be peaceful and happy. That's all I'm pursuing right now. Nothing material. I've got everything I need. Everything I need. I've traveled all over the world. I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm doing all the dangerous stuff, swimming with the sharks. I still have to go paragliding. But peace is what I'm pursuing right now.
Dr. Mamokgethi Phakeng, it's really been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your inspirational life story with us and for being with us on the BRICS Africa Channel.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was very instructive.